Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Elements of Fun. We are back in our studios. I am one of your hosts. I don't want to say co-host, but hosts, Joey. And of course, I couldn't do Elements of Fun without my awesome, lovely girlfriend, Courtney. How's
Hi,
it going?
everyone. Oh, it's going fine. It's
Yeah,
going good.
so this is a long-awaited part two of our Percy Jackson review.
Mhm.
Spoiler alert: this is a show that we both really loved. We're looking forward to, and so we're excited to finally bring back the second half of the show. But we could not do this alone. We had to invite our fellow co-host from Alt's Apartment, Extra Magic Hour, but more importantly, our good friend Sam, since both you guys were geeking out about Percy Jackson for months. So let's welcome Sam. Hey.
Hey
Hi, Sam.
guys, thanks for
Hi.
having me. I'm super excited.
We're
Ah,
excited to
yeah.
have you.
Yeah,
So,
so we
the
actually,
Percy Jackson series is actually something that I have been super excited for because I was the geeky teenager buying all of the Rick Riordan books anytime they came out. Still have all of them. So, whenever they're going to give us media, I am going to consume it and love it.
and of course, like we teased you on our first part because, like I said, once they announced it, you were geeking out instantly before they even. All they had was the title. That's all
Yeah.
it was. Coming out in 2023, and it was like 2021 at the time or something. But then, of course, Courtney was geeking out about it, and we're like, you know what, we got to have Sam at least for the finale of it. So, before we start talking about episodes 5 through 8, and Courtney's got the titles. We like to. I always forget this part because we're used to podcasts, not so much YouTube. So please, if you don't already, subscribe to the channel. Just hit that. I think right there. Just hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell. We got a lot of content coming up to you guys in the near future, and as near future, right after this video, we got some Disneyland trip stuff. We still got some Vegas stuff we got to put out, and we got some more Disney stuff coming up. But again, but be sure to do that. But Sam, I actually before we get to the episodes, you kind of gave us a little bit of a background on your fandom for and love for not just his books, but the author Rick Riordan. So, can you give us a little bit more of a background on how how long you've read the books and followed the author and just everything leading up, and even your daughter's opinions? You can bring that up right now too.
Of course, of course. So, I actually got introduced to his books when I was in college, and I was always reading young adult literature and like preteen literature because I was in school for elementary education. So my license was K-6. So I was always looking for ways to connect with those kids when I was working in 5th and 6th grade classrooms. And I started reading these books, and they allow you to create such an imaginatory story for yourself that I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, but like the media cannot even compare. It's kind of like when you've read Harry Potter for the first time, and what you create in your head is so much more magical than anything they can put on screen because of the limitations. There's no limitations to your imagination. And Rick Riordan, as a storyteller, does such a beautiful job at not limiting your imagination and letting you create the story for yourself. So that's how I fell in love with his books. He not only has the Greek stories, he has Egyptian mythology stories, he has Norse stories, he has heroes guides, tons of things about mythology that just go hand in hand together. They play nicely. And as an author, he has done really, really well for himself. And anytime I see something with his name on it that I don't have, it then becomes mine. I've got shelves full of things that are his. And then just kept consuming them. I was a 2nd grade teacher when I first started teaching, after I spent a year as a Title I instructional or as a Title I teacher. Didn't have a lot of opportunity to do like chapter book dives because those were struggling readers. But when I started teaching 2nd grade, I was able to read chapter books to my kids. And those were the books that they were wanting to read. They wanted me to read those books to them. And that was just being able to share something that you love with a group of kids. Joey, like as a coach, you get that. There's nothing
Yeah.
in the world compares to that. When you can get kids excited about something that you're excited about, which then leads me to my daughter, who, when the first Percy Jackson movies came out, which the movies were not near as good as the books, I was disappointed. So when I got to see the series, I was glad that they did a much better job portraying the storyline and giving it like an authenticity feel. So I was watching the show with my daughter, and getting to experience it with her was absolutely fantastic. She started asking so many questions about Greek mythology, and I got to pull out like all of my Greek mythology books and all of these maps and like all of my Rick Riordan books and just start talking to her about who these characters were. And she's like, well, who's Dionysus and who's this and who's that? And I was like, who's Athena? Who's Ares? And
Oh, I love that.
and getting to like show her that stuff and show her like the statues of these people and like where their stories come from, what their stories are, and how they're tying the stories into this series. It, as a mom, like that's the proudest mom moment you can have, is when your kid is willing to sit there and totally geek out over something that you geek out over. It's a mom win.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Absolutely.
As an uncle, I had that moment with my niece when she like Star Wars clicked for her, you know, and now, you know, she's in her early 30s, and you know, even it took me a few years, but even being able to last time I was in Florida to experience like Galaxy's Edge for the first time, you know, she was a 6-year-old again, and I'm not gonna lie, I teared up a little bit, but I know exactly what you meant. So very cool. I know when you told me that story about your daughter, I was like, that is awesome. And folks, like her Sam's daughter is a mini me of Sam, so I can just totally see everything.
Her personality is me and a 7-year-old, so.
and I know
and
you
if you know anything about me, I'm a force to be reckoned with. So me and a 7-year-old, there are a lot less boundaries being followed, because 7-year-olds don't have boundaries. So she's a lot, but it's awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, you were geeking out, you know, when it was announced. But I mean, how was it even amplified when you found out how involved Rick Riordan and his wife were in the show?
Honestly, that is something that I wish we had more of, because, like I said, it gives an authentic buy-in feel to it. You have the people who have literally written these stories telling you yes or no, like this is not what I was trying to convey, or this is what, it's not left to the film creator's discretion, which is something that I think fell short in the movies.
For sure, yeah.
It was up to somebody else's interpretation who had consumed the books maybe once or twice. You're missing so many components. You're missing the emotional components. And that's something that this series has done really, really well with, is showing what Percy's actually feeling. He is struggling. He is hurting. And we didn't get a lot of that in the first films because they wanted to rush through and give us action, action, action. Well, I didn't care about the action. I cared about this character's development. And I think that's so much easier to do in a series than it is in a film. So
totally agree.
I think it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
And I think that's why, like, movies kind of like, and I know not everybody agrees on every single movie of Harry Potter, and not everybody agrees on J.K. Rowling, but she played a pivotal role on those sets when they were making the films. So I think that's why a lot of the movies, not all of them, but a lot of the movies are very close to the book, because she was on the set.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we could totally side tangent on so many things, like Kirkman from Walking Dead. You know, he said there's so many things you could do in the comics that you can't do on TV, but things you can do on TV that you can't do in the comics. But I mean, having something that close. But anyways, that's a whole different
But that's the thing about like books, is like there is no limit to your imagination. So if I create the picture, you get to develop all of the in-betweens, all of the details. I'm just giving you the branch to jump off of, and then everything else is up to you. That's the magic of books. And it kind of makes me sad that a lot of people don't consume the books and they just go off of the media, because the books are so much better if you're visualizing and creating things out of your own imagination. And then when you have an author who has that ability, who is on set it makes a huge difference in the story that you're telling cinematically.
Yeah, and I think that's why the show was so good. But let's get to it. Episodes 5 through 8. We're kind of treating this like we did the first one. We're not going to necessarily go from episode to episode. We're going to do it kind of like one big lump sum. We're trying to stay in order, but we're going to be jumping around a little bit. But we will have at least the episode titles. Courtney will give us a little rundown of what happened the second half of the season.
Okay. So for episode 5, we'll try and stay on episode 5. We have God buys us cheeseburgers.
This episode, I was so geeked.
Yeah, this was awesome.
I was too. And the little synopsis on IMDb is: the quest deepens as Percy, Annabeth, and Grover are tasked with a favor from a fearsome opponent. Well, and that opponent is Ares, the god of war.
So when Ares, Grover, it took me a second. I was like, why does Ares look so familiar? And
I did the same thing.
Then the high school me went, that's Edge.
Yeah.
That is Edge. That's the wrestler Edge. I'm like, what?
Well, that's what I was telling Courtney because I'm like, dude, that guy looks so familiar. Then I waited for the credits and I saw his name. I'm like, that name looks familiar, but I couldn't place it. Then all of a sudden, I kind of rewound it a little bit, and his eyes kind of like bugged out. And I'm like, Edge. That's the freaking Edge. So I don't know. I thought it was awesome.
I was geeking out because it was Ares, God of War. And I grew up watching Hercules, the legendary journeys with Kevin Sorbo and stuff like that. And Kevin Smith was Ares. And so my mind immediately goes to that. And Ares was just a badass in that series. He was like one of the funniest, like craziest characters, and always was getting up to mischief. So like having Ares, God of War in there was just like, wow, that's cool.
And I think as far as the story goes too, with Ares being the one who's going to help them when he's having all of these issues back at camp with Ares' children, like Clarice, like it definitely gave like a suspect element to it, which we find out why as later episodes come on. But it was cool just watching Ares pop up and be like, y'all are late. Like, what are you doing? You're behind schedule.
Yeah. And so we pick up right after the Gateway Arch with the Chimera incident. And Percy had been in the water and he saw this. I forgot who he saw, but they told him that he needed to go to Santa Monica.
Neferi? I think something like that is what it's called. Yeah. Nymphera or something like that. Nymphera, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a water like goddess thing. And so she told him that he needs to go to Santa Monica before they go to the underworld to, and because he fell in the water, because he's the son of,
Poseidon.
Poseidon, the water heals him from the poison that the Chimera gave him. So, but also they're on the run from the police because they destroyed that train compartment because the Chimera was chasing after them and destroyed basically the St. Louis Arch too, right?
Yeah. And real quick about this scene, I loved that it was practical underwater shot.
Yeah.
I thought, when they chose to do like practical effects like that, and we'll talk about it at the end, but you see that a lot in the behind the scenes feature, which was amazing.
That was crazy.
Just seeing like how much like they could have easily made it look like projected he was underwater and done fake stuff, and it was awesome. So just nerding out on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so Ares has been tasked by Zeus to go and find the lightning bolt too. So his children are supposed to be out looking for the lightning bolt, as well as these demigods. And Percy's been tasked to do it too. All the while, the stepfather has gone on TV and said that Percy's mom is missing and that Percy is kind of has something to do with that disappearance. kind of. And so they're just on the run from the police in this one. So, but and
then they get a task from Ares.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're at a hamburger joint. They get a task from Ares, and that task is to go to an amusement park where his shield is.
Mm-hmm. And they run into Hephaestus.
Yes. They do run into Hephaestus, and that's because, well, let's Grover is able to stay. Oh, Grover stays back with
Aries.
Aries, and so Annabeth and Percy go to the grounds for the amusement park, and they're realizing that this was created by a god.
Yeah.
And they end up finding the Tunnel of Love, in which they're realizing why Ares' shield is here, because Ares has an infatuation with Aphrodite, who is,
as one does,
the goddess of love.
She is the goddess of love, and she had many, many lovers. But Hephaestus is her husband.
Is her husband, yes. But also brother.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird.
It's weird.
But
take that, Luke and Leia.
Weird.
exactly, right? You want Luke and Leia kissing? We got Aphrodite and Hephaestus.
Yeah, so, and honestly, a lot of what we see here is like how hurt Hephaestus is.
Yeah. I love the fact that they took their story and put it up on the wall in just shadows, and you see their story play out, how she left him for Ares or cheated on him with Ares and stuff like that. All these
like she had Adonis too, like,
and Apollo too, I think.
Apollo too.
Yeah.
Like Adonis literally, I think he was castrated like on a beach because of her.
Probably. A lot of guys were
by a boar. Sent by Apollo, I think.
Yeah.
Because he referenced the boys, and I loved how they put this like actual mythology into this new story. I mean, it's so well done.
That's what the original movies were lacking.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and they probably thought, oh, nobody cares about the original Greek mythology. No, that's what we needed. That's what everybody was wanting.
Yes, and that's what Riordan does so great in his books.
And then
he does so much research. Use it.
Yes, exactly. And then we find out that there's this like throne, like chair that Hephaestus made, and Percy just figures out that one of them is not going to be leaving this tunnel of love. Somebody has to sit in the throne in order and able to get the shield. So he decides that he is going to sacrifice himself and have Annabeth take the shield back to Ares. And that's when Hephaestus shows up, right as he's being encased in this like bronze element. And Annabeth pleads with Hephaestus to let him go. And I don't know if he actually does, or if it's because of her pleading, it breaks some sort of spell. It was a little bit.
I think it's the fact that he realizes, because Hephaestus, he has this heart that the other gods don't have.
Yeah, he's like this child nobody liked.
he was wounded. He was wounded, and he saw the way that the gods treated each other, and it disgusted him.
Yeah. And
that's why he kind of was just like, you know what, screw all of this. Like, you're the children of gods. You're just as evil as they are. So I'm not going to give you mercy. And then he heard Annabeth speak.
Mm-hmm.
And he realized that she's actually incredibly selfless, and she's not like Athena.
Yeah.
And I think that it was her speech. He was like, you know what, I'm going to give these kids a shot.
I think it was that. Also with the noble, selfless act that Percy did.
Yeah. Because he's not like them either. Because of the stories his mom told him. So
exactly. So I think it was just a combination of both Annabeth and Percy's like selflessness. She was genuinely, not in love with Percy, but loves him as a friend because he's showing his virtue, his bravery. And like I said, his selfless act,
He's showing all of the things that the gods should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The gods should be noble.
That
and the show actually does a great job of giving backstories that show that the gods are not noble.
Yeah, absolutely.
That the humans, or like the demigods, have way more virtuous traits than their parents do.
Yeah.
And then maybe that comes with being part human.
Probably because they have they don't have any humanity, and in every
show,
show,
we do see that Poseidon does.
Yes, Poseidon does. Yes. But I would say, like, in every iteration shown of the Greek gods, like, they lack humanity, or they said they've been around so long that their humanity is just, like, has waned or has burned off or whatever it is. You know what I mean? They've just been alive so long that they just don't
Yeah.
care. You know?
And I forget what movie it was, but it was had something to do with this too. But it was like that they actually look up to the humans because they are mortal, yet they make godlike decisions, putting them at risk for the better. So I forget what
Right.
movie that was in, but I'm paraphrasing.
Hmm.
But it was cool how, like, when he got encased, how it looked kind of like clock wise.
Right.
It wasn't just like he was being consumed by the gold or something, but it looked like all like gadgets and gears and stuff.
Yeah, it had gears to it. Yeah.
I got
So-
C-3PO vibes.
I mean, he was golden like C-3PO.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, you're looking very mechanical right now, friend.
So Percy Jackson gets let go, and I just want to say that, like, Hephaestus is played by one of my favorite actors of all time, Timothy Aldmanson. He is amazing. I love him in Psych. He plays Lassie, the detective, that is always going after Sean. But it warms my heart that he's still acting, because I know he had some medical issues before the pandemic. So I'm just glad that he's back acting. I love him. So
it looks like, and I mean, from what we talked about in the first 4 to even this episode, with like, they just cast the right people to play
he
these
did.
gods and these characters.
I was just thinking that because I was thinking ahead to episode 5, and we'll get to that in a second. But in episode 5, I was like, what? But so they end up getting the shield. They take it back to Ares, who gives them a bag with some things that they're going to need, some drachma, some money, and he puts them in basically a cattle truck.
Yeah.
With some animals that are going to the Lotus Casino in Vegas.
In Las Vegas. So we can't
Vegas,
get to
baby.
Santa Monica yet. We got to go to Vegas first.
Yes, we've got to go to Vegas to see Hermes.
Yeah.
So they are. Are you guys ready to jump into episode 5?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Can. Hold on one second. Let me get.
And since while she's looking at it, overall opinion of this episode.
Oh yeah.
I thought that episode 5 was the best episode so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
that
on
I had seen in the
IMDb,
season from 1 through. I would say if it was out of 10, I would give it an 8.
see, IMDb gave it a 7.6. So.
Which, like we said, that's still a solid score.
Yeah.
So.
But I would give it an 8 too. I really liked it. I liked the
Yeah.
introduction of Ares. I thought that it had the same caliber of the first 4 episodes.
I loved his bad guy vibe because it was so like what you would think as Ares in human form. You're like,
Oh, for sure. The like motorcycle riding, like
I'm like,
that
he can
guy.
get it. Ares
Yeah.
can get it.
Perfectly cast. Like all the gods so far have been perfectly cast as we've met them.
Yes. And so we have come to Hermes, which his episode is called We Take a Zebra to Vegas,
I love the titles.
which apparently are actual titles in the book.
We forgot something in episode 4.
Oh, what?
I mean,
You mean
episode
in
5. I'm sorry, in 5. Grover stayed back at the diner, and he played on Ares' ego,
Mhm.
and was able
yeah, he
to
was
find
telling him his
out
favorite
who really stole the lightning bolts.
Yeah,
Ah, yes.
that's
and
right.
it was Ares' daughter,
Clarice. Or Clarissa? Clarice. Yeah.
So that is important to note that we now know who stole the lightning bolts. It is Clarice, the Master Bolts.
Dun,
so
dun,
then, yes.
dun.
Then we're going into episode 5. So
Episode 6.
6. Oh my goodness, 6.
It's because 1 and 2 were like together.
Yeah.
So we take a zebra to Vegas. The little synopsis is Percy, Annabeth, and Grover must resist the alluring draw of a casino that feels outside of time.
Which a casino does in real
Oh
life.
yeah, we were
So,
in Vegas and I didn't
perfect
even know what
setting.
time it was.
Perfect setting.
They really, that's why they like don't have windows in casinos.
Mhm. Or
Yeah.
in the hotels, unless you're in your room.
They
That's
don't
the
want
only
you to be
windows.
able to look outside and see that days have passed.
Exactly.
No clocks in the rooms, no coffee makers.
So this was actually something that I loved about the books, was the fact that it was called the lotus, because the lotus flower actually had, like, people believe that it has these properties where it does create a mental, basically, like, it can be used as a hallucinogenic. It can be used to put yourself in a meditative or trance-like state. So that's what people believe of the plant. So they used it that way in the book. And then I love that as soon as they said they were going to the Lotus Casino, I was like, they are about to lose their memories.
Yeah.
Well, and this has a trope all throughout Greek mythology too. It's like the Odyssey and the Siren Song, and being on that island with Circe, you know, and they don't know how much time has passed. You know what I mean? So it's always been that way with, like, heroes of epic tales. They always have that one leg of the journey that they have no idea what time it is.
They do. And, like, they're not invincible. There are, so the, like, yes, you can't really kill a god, but you can remove them from their element. You can slow them down on their journey. There are things that you can do to kind of entrap them in situations. Like you said, with the Siren Song and Circe's Lair, and the Lotus Casino in Vegas.
Yes.
I love that Grover, talking to the animals, was the one who came up with the plan of how they were going to get out of the truck by opening up the cages. But before that, we saw a call back to camp.
Yes. And also a dream starts this episode off, actually, where he's back in the principal's office at Yancey Academy, and an entity in the guise of the headmaster berates an unseen lightning thief for losing Zeus' master bolt after stealing it. So Percy is looking in on this, like, you know, interaction between the lightning thief, but he can't see who it is, and this, like, principal of his old school. But it's not
and
really.
He hears them say, you couldn't do this, maybe I should have Percy do this. Like, like, hint, not, they didn't say that directly, but indirectly they're playing with his head. We later find out who this is that is doing this. Is it okay if I mention that now, or do you want me to wait?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Kronos.
It's Kronos.
So Kronos is manipulating not just Percy's dream, but he's the one who got to Clarice and Ares, and he is very, very powerful at mind control and manipulation. So he is already planting the seeds, like, oh, Percy is going to be the next one that is going to do this for me. So he's trying to plant those things like, hey, you couldn't do it, but I've got someone who can. And, like, trying to stroke Percy's ego through his dreams. Fortunately for us, and unfortunately for him, that doesn't work for Percy. Percy has very high cognitive dissonance over what's happening in his dreams. And he is aware that he is being manipulated. He figures it out. But goes to show the power of Kronos and why the gods fear Kronos still, even though Kronos is in the depths of Tartarus.
Yeah.
And in Star Wars terms, Kronos is pretty much the Phantom Menace of the
pretty much. Kronos is Zeus's and Poseidon's and Hades' dad. So he is the big god. Titan, if you might.
Yep. So we get to see a call back to camp where they talk to Luke and they tell him, hey, it's Clarice. And he's telling them, you know, everybody at camp is getting ready for war because the Master Bolt hasn't been returned. So there's going to be a war. And we see that Percy wants to tell him, hey, we're going to see Hermes in Vegas. And Annabeth ends the call.
Right.
We will later come to find out that it's because Luke and Hermes do not have a good relationship, and that Luke would have dissuaded them from going to see Hermes, and that would have stopped the mission from moving forward had he been successful.
Because Luke is a child of Hermes.
He got daddy issues because of his mommy.
Yeah.
Because of the way that his mom went mad because of being in love with a god.
Right. Which, happens, I guess.
happens.
Or you get turned into a swan or something like that.
I can't imagine. I can't even imagine. Like that must. Thankfully, it's not reality, but that must be absolutely heartbreaking.
Right.
And we see that portrayed so much throughout this series. And like I said, the emotional aspect that they were able to bring in really buys you into the characters and it ties you into them and it makes you want to keep watching because you're like, they are hurting. These are gods and they are hurting. Like they can't go down and spend time with their kids.
No.
And it's not that they don't love their kids. They're trying to do what's best for their kids by staying away from them. They're trying to protect their kids because being a demigod is not a safe thing to be.
No.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotional aspects here. So Luke does not understand that about his father. And Hermes is not trying to fix things with Luke as a good father should. So
and I don't know like where in this episode, like I haven't done my rewatch in a while, but who is the like they all part ways and they're like we're going to meet here at this, make sure nobody. Anyways, who is the satyr that Grover runs into? The older satyr.
I forget. I think it's Fiero. No,
Pharaoh.
Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Something that starts with an F. What is his name? Maybe I can find it here.
Because it kind of
Augustus. His name is Augustus, and he was tasked to find Pan, and he got lost.
He was a searcher. Yes.
Yeah. So he was a searcher. He got tasked to find Pan. He got all the way up to the Lotus Casino, and he got stuck there because this is now what's happening to our three, demigods here, heroes.
Well, they thought as long as they didn't eat anything, that they would be okay because the legend goes that, it's the lotus flower. You eat the lotus flower. Well, they're pumping it into the air in the casino.
They made it a fragrance and pumped it into the air. So,
sounds familiar. However, did you know that casinos actually do pump extra oxygen into them?
Yeah, that's why it doesn't smell like cigarettes and cigars.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you stay awake longer.
Yeah.
So you're there and you're not falling asleep and you're not getting tired and your brain is getting more oxygen, so you stay longer.
Yeah. Same thing with the lotus flower.
Except for they're giving you lotus where you lose your memory, so you have no idea how long you've been there. So the three are separated, and Grover ends up going on a side quest looking for Pan with Augustus and forgets why he's there. And then
Annabeth and Percy go talk to Hermes.
Yes, played by
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I knew Courtney was going to be excited about that. When I first saw that casting, I was like, are you joking? Like, how great is this? How great is this?
I loved it.
And again, we were briefly introduced to him in episode 3, I believe. The Medusa episode.
He was delivering a package up to
the head.
Right.
Yeah.
Medusa's head.
That's right.
And we're like,
oh yeah, we forgot to talk about how Athena is upset with Annabeth.
Oh yeah,
because
I think
that was episode 4. Yeah, that was your guys. That was episode 4. Yeah. So see, I'm a little.
Again, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hermes, another brilliant casting, in my opinion.
He played that role perfectly.
Yeah.
Because the entire time, and if you don't sit there and think about how wise Hermes actually is and how he's like the god of travelers and like how common like pickpocketing is while traveling.
Oh yeah.
You're just like, dude, he's not going to help them. Like that is awful. They just came all this way and you realize he knew exactly what he was doing to help them without directly involving himself. He knew that Annabeth was taking his keys. And he left them the note on the car.
It was very. I always reference other things that I love, and I feel like a lot of these movies and they take from each other. But he was very Gandalf-y.
Oh, for sure.
Or Dumbledore, even like.
Yeah, I could see that.
Playing dumb, not playing dumb, but kind of like giving clues without giving clues.
Yeah.
And
Dumbledore did that a lot with Harry.
Yes,
for sure.
And with Harry and Hermione, if they weren't smart enough, i.e. Percy and Annabeth, they wouldn't have caught on, but they knew they would have caught on to what he was giving them or not giving them. So again, it takes a really good actor to do stuff like that without it not coming off that way.
Yeah.
And I've seen him in a couple movies, and of course Hamilton on Disney Plus, not on stage. But I think this is, in my opinion, one of his best acting jobs that I've seen him in so far, and as little of a role he's had. So, just that whole dialogue with him was great.
So great. And then him telling him the whole story about how he kind of regrets what happened with Luke, but like he can't change it, and he doesn't get along with Luke. And they were, he said he recognizes Annabeth right away. Says, you were there that night. I had that fight with Luke. So,
Yeah.
All of that.
Then they find Grover. They end up realizing why they're losing their memories is because it's being pumped into the casino. And
but he's playing a virtual reality game.
Like he's looking for Pan.
Yeah.
Like he's on the quest for Pan in this virtual reality game, which is hysterical.
Yeah.
And they realized they'd been there for 4 days?
4 or 5 days, yeah.
4 or 5 days, and the quest is basically it's about over. Like
they're missing the deadline.
They're missing the deadline, which Aries told them they were doing. So
because he knew they were going to the casino, and he knew they were gonna miss the deadline.
Yeah, Aries.
He sent them there.
But we also learned that Aries has his own motives. So
yeah,
they end up going to the garage. They find the taxi. That's the traveler cab that will automatically take them to wherever they need to go. They need to get to Santa Monica. We get to see Percy attempt to drive. Good.
Oh my God, that was hilarious.
Which was great.
I was holding my breath because I was like, that could be my child someday.
Yeah, they realized none of them can drive. None of them can drive.
And you just need to get on the street because once you're out of the parking garage, but he busted up everything in that parking garage on the way out. And it was
horrible.
I was cringing. I was like, God, no. Like it really cannot be that bad. You have to have it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
So for me, that scene was a little overdone. It was a little overcooked there. But they get out. They end up in Santa Monica Pier, wherever they need to be. Percy goes in the water, hoping to see his dad. The Nephilim or whatever she was is there, and she says, "You're too late." He waited as long as he could. Mm-hmm. I would have loved to be able to see them meet in that scene. I understand why in the storyline they couldn't, but as you have invested yourself into the show, broke my heart.
I know.
Because he was there. He was waiting.
He was waiting. And she's like, it's too late. The gods are preparing for war. It's too late. And he's like, no, I'm going. There's bigger things at play here than just a missing Master Bolt. There are things that the gods don't know. I have to go to the underworld. And I'm going to save my mom. So she gives him the 4 beads that will... What are the beads called?
They're magic pearls.
So the 4 magic pearls that will get them out of the underworld if they use them. And they make their way to the underworld. They are going to visit Hades.
Yes.
His Uncle Hades.
Uncle Hades. And what do we think about this episode?
I'll start with this one. Every episode just kept getting better and better. Like Sam said, now we're fully invested in everything, and in my opinion, there hasn't been a drop off episode, which happens in a lot of shows, and every episode just got me I gotta wait a week. Kind of and again, I'm referencing other shows, but kind of WandaVision and Mandalorian, all these shows that we love on Disney Plus. It's up there with those. Gotta watch it. If it was on at midnight, I'd be watching it at midnight kind of thing. So
for sure,
everything in. We rated the last episode at 8. I keep it at an 8, maybe even pushing to 8.5, which is saying a lot because
I went backwards a little bit. I went to a 7.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm kind of right in the middle there. I think it's a solid 8. I liked the introduction of Lin-Manuel. I liked the use of the casino to do the whole we're lost in a trance kind of trope from the Greek mythology. Apparently IMDb feels different. It gave it a 6.8. So, and that's the lowest rated one.
And we'll remind people, IMDb is unlike Rotten Tomatoes, where it is strictly viewer voting. It's not critics. And
Yeah, I
people.
think for me, it lost some points with Grover's side quest.
Okay.
It did, once you said that, it did, that part did kind of drag a little bit. So
It was a bit unnecessary.
Yeah, I would say that going to find Pan and him having his own agenda really is like, it's about the three of you guys like doing this quest. Like, why do you need a separate quest? But
I change it. I go to 7.
Well, and then I also said that I thought it was a bit overkill on the parking garage scene. So for me, that's why I gave it a 7.
Okay,
those two things.
I'll stay at an 8 because I like it. But on to episode 7,
the penultimate.
It's called "We Find Out the Truth," sort of. And so the synopsis is: our heroes journey across the underworld and bargain for their safety with the god of the dead.
Pretty simple.
This episode felt like the longest episode.
It did, but it also kind of came in at a weird time too. I felt like we were just like thrown into something. Like from the last episode to this episode, I felt like
we were just in the ocean, and now we're like.
Well, that's what when we were talking on the phone after watching the episode, you said that's like it felt like there was at least 5 or 10 minutes missing out of the beginning.
Because we didn't see them get from Santa Monica from Santa Monica to wherever the entrance of this underworld was, which was in a mattress store, I think, with Krusty or his brother. Basically, it's another son of Poseidon.
Oh yeah, that's right. The mattress store.
Kronos, right? Wasn't it?
No,
it was the son of Poseidon.
Yeah, deserted Krusty.
So his brother tried to kill him.
Yeah, it's Percy walks into the seemingly deserted Krusty's waterbed palace and finds the proprietor, Krusty, aka Procrustes, a son of Poseidon and infamous murderer of travelers.
So, first of all, you don't want to go to a mattress shop called Krusty's. I'm just saying.
No, okay. But wait, did this episode start with Percy in another dream sequence, and we're actually seeing this is where we saw what happened with his mom? And
this episode starts where he barges into the mattress shop.
Yeah.
Like totally. Like,
but this was the one where we got that scene where like Poseidon comes to talk to his mom at the diner, and this is that episode.
I mean, we do get a flashback, but this episode starts him busting into this mattress shop.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, that was kind of out of nowhere.
And they jump in a bed and kind of like Bill and Ted it out of to the underworld.
Because the secret entrance into the underworld is through this store, and Krusty is the guardian. So Percy asks him to let him pass, but Krusty instead tries to convince Percy to sit on one of the deadly beds, his ancient method of killing his guests. So the beds are supposed to kill them, but Annabeth is wearing her mom's hat, and so she's hearing all of this, but she's invisible. And so what happens is she ends up pushing Krusty onto one of the beds, and it just wraps him up like a burrito. So it doesn't even kill him. He just gets wrapped up like a burrito. And then they go into the entrance of the underworld.
You ever wonder why a son of Poseidon is working for Hades?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, the story
they don't get along. I know that. I mean, but maybe he doesn't get along with his dad. I mean, why would you call your son Krusty? Unless he's a clown.
Yeah, right.
I wonder if there's a mythology story there that we've yet to.
There probably
uncover.
Is. I've never heard of Procrustes. Or Procrustes.
We'll have to see if there's.
I'll need to get my mythology for dummies.
Yeah. So
but the visuals of the underworld was really cool.
They were.
Yes.
The CGI.
Oh gosh.
They had some great CGI.
And I mean, I've seen the underworld in lots of different iterations, and this one was one of the best ones.
Yeah.
Of the underworld.
Definitely.
And this is like at the beginning where they're on the beach before they get to where Hades is at, and they get chased by the three-headed dog,
Mm.
right? Or-
Well, that's later because we get a
okay.
flashback before that. So we get a flashback to Sally taking Percy to a boarding school in the countryside. And he says he doesn't want to go. And he locks himself in the car.
And they don't want him at the school.
Yeah, they don't want him at the school either. They actually suggest him being homeschooled.
They say that they basically think he's mentally ill.
Yeah.
And this is like the third or fourth school he's already kind of like being forced out.
Yeah, I think it's the school that we first got introduced to him at, right?
Yancey. It's Yancey.
It's Yancey.
Okay.
So, and they didn't originally want him there.
And, we get to see then that they're at this diner and she's like, honey, you have to do this. You have to go. There are things I can't teach you. And, I'm going to go pay. And that's when she calls in for Poseidon. And Poseidon comes and sits next to her. And he's like, I know this is really hard. And, and she's like, I want him to go to camp. And he's like, are you sure? And they decide through that conversation that no, he's not going to camp. And then she goes, do you want to hear his voice? Like, do you want to talk to him? And he's like, maybe someday when he needs me, when it's time, I will be there next to him.
Yeah. But before we get that, we get an intercut to the underworld where they, and then we cut to like the Cerberus dog,
Cerberus, which I was like, what in the Hogwarts fluffy is happening here?
Exactly.
I was like, did they use the same dang dog? I was like, is this the same footage? Because it looks identical. I was like, yes, Cerberus is a three-headed dog, but that looks identical to what they had guarding the corridor or the door in Hogwarts.
Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah. Because like this is kind of a funny like scene because Percy and Grover end up like cutting in line because they want to get to Chiron, they want to pass the River Styx. So they end up like cutting in line of all the dead people, and they're like, "We don't wait in line, blah blah blah." Like only losers wait in line. It's kind of really funny.
Well, guess what? You just lost because Chiron is like,
"You're not dead.
You're not dead. You're not supposed to be here."
And sticks Cerberus on you.
Yes.
I was gonna say, well, Grover almost got dead.
Yeah.
So then it turns into this crazy battle of them trying to escape Cerberus, and was it Grover who loses his magic pearl, right?
Yeah, he loses his magic pearl. He does get
gone from 4 to 3.
So he does get eaten, but Cerberus spits him out. Annabeth does soothe the savage beast. So
the old magical back rub.
Yeah. And so they end up like going around where they have to like climb up the mountains instead of going through the River Styx. So
yes.
But then we get the whole scene about the office and
yes, okay. Yeah. With at Yancey.
Yeah.
And then the diner.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So real quick.
So
Poseidon. I love who they cast as Poseidon, Toby Stevens. He's been in a lot of movies and stuff, but I loved him in Black Sails, and he had that presence of Poseidon.
His energy is just like
the compassion.
He's fierce, but he's calm at the same time, just like the dang ocean.
I know. Yeah. I was gonna say that. I was like, it's the sea. Like it can be both, and he is both.
Yeah,
he literally embodied all of the water on Earth.
Yeah,
exactly. And just so again, a perfect casting choice for such a great character. And yeah, I mean, you could feel the pain that he does miss Percy and loves him, but
and
the conflict
Percy
of being a god.
Too. He loves Sally too.
Which is, I think, one of the only like gods that really do show that they love the mortals that they.
But that's the thing with like when you think about the forbidden children, they don't have tons of kids.
No, because they're forbidden.
Yeah, but they have this emotional connection. Like Hermes is out like making babies with anybody. Like his cabin is full. Well, he's also got the unclaimed kids.
Yeah,
Like Ares' cabin is full. Like
Poseidon's. Percy's got his own. He's got his own crib.
So far.
So far.
Yeah. Yes.
So far.
So there's more.
I just wanted to shout out Toby Stevens. I thought.
Well, I mean, we know. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, technically, we know that he has a brother, but his brother's God. He's not a half.
He's not a demigod.
I was about to call him a half. Well, and I was like, this is I'm jumping back and forth between Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. I was like, no, he's not a demigod. He is not happy.
Not a demigod.
As far as we know. So I wanted to point out that there were four pearls.
Yes.
Because we've got Annabeth, Grover, Percy, and Sally, who has been trapped by Hades in the underworld after he saved her from near death when she was being attacked in the beginning. In episode, was that episode 2?
Episode 2. Well, 1 and 2 together.
Yeah. So there are 4. Now we're down to 3. So right now that's telling us, hey, at the way this story is unfolding right now, somebody does not get to leave right now.
Right.
They end up walking through this forest. Do you want to talk about the forest, Courtney?
Is that in this episode? Because this says that they end up on the seashore and they are facing Ares.
That's at the end. So they're actually so after they escape Cerberus, they're going.
Then they go into the forest. Yeah,
they go into this forest where if you have any kind of remorse or regret for things in your life, basically you become a petrified tree type of situation.
Right. And Annabeth starts becoming a tree.
And we have yet to figure out what Annabeth's remorse or regret is, and she is like, "You guys go. I'll get out of here." And I'm assuming it's something with Talia, like,
yeah.
So she takes her pearl, uses her pearl, escapes the situation, and she is back. She is put back on the shore.
Well, we learned the whole story about her family and how she left her dad and she hasn't been back in a while. So
yes,
she regrets that.
Yes. Yep. I forgot all about hearing that story. Because there's just so much. Like, there are literally so many stories within the story.
Yeah.
Then they get out of there. Grover and Percy do. They're walking through, like, these sand things where, like, sand pits, basically, where Tartarus is. And they're being pulled into Tartarus by Kronos. They end up stopping it by taking Luke's magic shoes off.
Yep.
I think Kronos was able to pull into the magic that was tied into those.
Probably.
Because they're a gift from a god. They're a gift from a god, essentially. So he was able to harness the magic in that. And once they got the shoes off, the shoes went into Tartarus, and the lightning bolt, the master bolt, was all of a sudden in Percy's backpack.
Mm-hmm. So he made a trade without even knowing it.
Uh-huh. And we see them get to Hades. And that's when they realize that Hades had absolutely nothing to do with this.
Actually, I think we're in the next episode because, like I said, Ares, this one ends with him on the beach with Ares.
So that's after they leave. That's after they leave Hades.
Okay. Oh,
yeah. We get
Hades is confused.
Hades, which
that's right. Okay.
He did not. Hades was not who I thought was going to be.
We see Sally is being held captive by Hades, and they're like, "Oh my gosh! Like what is happening here?" Because Hades does not want this. Like Hades, like, I don't care about my brother's war. Like, I don't care about that master bolt. This is ridiculous. Like, that's my brother's thing. I just want my helm. Someone stole my helm, and he's like, "Give me my helm, and you can have your mom." And then they tell Hades what happened with Kronos, and they're like, "If Kronos is trying to escape, I want the bolt now. Like, I need to be prepared.
Now I want it.
I will
and Percy's like,
refuge."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'll give you refuge.
Like, no,
I'll protect you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Percy was like, "No, we'll take the first offer. We won't give you the bolt, like, but we'll take the first offer. We'll give you your helm."
Real quick, do you guys know who played Hades? I just have a Jay Duplass, but I'm not familiar with him.
No.
You know what? Hold on one second.
But he did. I mean, he was a very Weasley Hades, which I kind of Doug in a way.
Yeah, I like him.
He was
I've
very-
seen him
so
before.
that's the
I've
thing
heard
is,
his
like,
name before.
Hades is kind of an outcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have the godly essence that his brothers do, where it's this super commanding, super godly energy. He is kind of weaselly, and
Yeah.
he does slimy things, but also he just doesn't care what his brothers does. He's like, I've got it made down here. Are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what they're doing up there. I am master of my own domain down here. So it's kind of like that, like super nerdy, geeky kid who's like, leave me in my tech lab. I do not care what's going on up in the big leagues. Leave me where I'm happy. And then he got scared, which is when Kronos is mentioned to Zeus and Poseidon. They're just kind of like they're a bit more solemn, like, and they're a bit more direct about it, and just kind of closed off. And okay, we'll handle this. And then you see Hades, and he's like, like, who's gonna protect me? Like, I'll protect you if you give me the bolts.
Right.
He was scared.
Yeah.
So they did use their pearls to get out of that situation, and that's when they ended up on the coast again, because they're going to go get the helm.
Yeah, I've heard his name before, but looking at his IMDb, he's been an executive producer on a bunch of stuff. Like, it doesn't really say that was an actor.
Yeah.
On anything.
That's what I was wondering. But again, not familiar with him, but I thought he was a good cast. I'm sticking to that, my theme of casting. But yeah, the way it ended though, with Ares popping up on the beach, kind of angrily.
Transparent. He was in the TV series Transparent.
Okay.
Which was a really big show for a while, from 2014 to 2019.
But what do you guys think of the episode cliffhanger? Not cliffhanger, but the hanging out with it.
I mean, we got to see Ares again, so hey.
A pissed off Ares too.
Yeah.
You're muted. You're muted, bro.
You're muted, bro. I thought I was Lewis for a second. We did get to see where Luke teaching Percy combat actually came into play here, because he said, you don't need to be the best at fighting. You need to know the rules of combat, because then you can use them in your favor. And Percy did just that. And that's how he was able to defeat the god of war, by claiming terms for what this fight was going to be first.
Yeah.
Was that in this episode or the beginning?
No, this one ends with just him, like, them going at it. Like, they're preparing to go at it. So we actually get the fight in the next episode.
Okay. So episode 8
is the episode 8, and it's the last episode, the series, the season finale, because we are getting a season finale. 2.
We'll get more on that later in a few.
So this is, okay. What was our rating for the last one?
I go back to an 8.
I'm sticking with 8.
I get an 8.5 because of all the action and the Hades twist and all of that. But
I like the fact that something had been stolen from Hades and he wanted it back too.
Yes.
That added an extra element that I liked.
For sure. Yeah.
And again, the show on that episode, especially like the underworld, not being cheap on the budget. So
true. And so IMDb gives it a 7.6. So they like it better than the last one. Then our last episode, our season finale, is called "The Prophecy Comes True," and the synopsis is: Mount Olympus beckons, and Percy must face his greatest battle yet. That's all we get.
So this is when we see that battle scene happen, and
Yeah, but it opens up with Luke teaching Percy the sword fighting. So that is the first opening scene that we see is Percy is being taught how to fight, and that the gods don't fight fair. So Luke pushes Percy harder and tells him to know the rules of combat so he can use them to his advantage. And then we cut back to the shore of the sea, and Percy challenges Ares to single combat in exchange for their lives in Hades' Helm of Darkness. First blood wins. So whoever draws first blood, so you don't have to kill each other, but whoever draws first blood wins. And the god of war incredulously but humorously accepts the challenge, warning Percy that there cannot be any trace of him left to tell Ares' plan to steal the bolt. So Ares is trying to protect his own agenda at this time.
Yes. And we see that Percy's able to win. Mm-hmm. And he gets Hades' helm.
Mm-hmm.
And this scene was shot so awesomely because there's no way in hell a 10-year-old is going to defeat the God of War. Yeah. Let alone and a WWE champion. I'm just saying. And but the way that the director and everything, the stunt coordinator pulled it off, it was believable. I mean, it was a really good fight scene. It was awesome.
I mean, you saw the water interaction and stuff like that too, and it took you back to that scene when Ares is like challenging him a little bit when he's putting them in the back of the cattle truck, and he's like, "You don't know what you're messing with, Ares."
Yeah.
And he found out what he was messing with. He did not expect Percy to be able to wield the powers that Percy is able to when it comes to manipulating water sources around him. Yeah. And Percy showed up. He put his money where his mouth was, and he won that battle. He drew first blood. I love that he cut him right by where his Achilles tendon is, right?
Yeah.
So I loved that too. I was like, that is...
Which is a callback to the Greek warrior Achilles. That's why we have Achilles.
And so they just came out of the river Styx, and Achilles' mother dipped Achilles in the river Styx, and the only part that did not go in the water to make him immortal, essentially, was his Achilles tendon area. That's why it's called the Achilles tendon. And that is how Achilles ended up dying, was taking an arrow, I believe it was, to that spot in his ankle.
Because it was most vulnerable.
And it was the only spot that you could hit Achilles that would kill him.
Yeah.
So he gets that slice in, he wins, they get Hades' helm, then they see there's this house up there, they go up to the house, and who's waiting in the house? What's her name?
Electro.
Their algebra teacher.
Electro, yeah. Which is played by Megan Mullally, and I'm so glad they brought her back. I was like, ugh. Yeah.
Yes. So their algebra teacher who's against demigods,
flying demon witch,
has tried to kill them multiple times in the series, takes the helm. She's taking it back to Hades, and he's like, hey, tell him, remember our deal. So Electo's going to take the helm to Hades. Mm-hmm. She is going to then have Hades release Sally, Percy's mom, back into the real world because the deal is now complete. And that is when we see that Percy is telling Annabeth and Grover, I have to go to Olympus.
Yes. And he needs to go and talk to Zeus and try to get him to stop this war.
Like, how ballsy do you have to be as he's 13? 13,
I think.
13?
Yeah.
12 or 13.
Anyways, you're a preteen child. You are a pre-teenager.
Yeah. And you're going to go tell the god of the gods.
You're going to go tell Zeus, we are not doing this war thing. Good on you, sir.
Yeah.
Good on you. And he does. He gets up to Zeus, and he tells him, here's your master bolt. Here's what actually happened. It was Ares, and it's Kronos. Like, Kronos is manipulating people. Mm-hmm. And you really need to call an assembly to figure out how to stop this from happening. And that's when Poseidon comes in.
Yeah.
Because Zeus is like, what is you're telling me? Kind of. And again, Zeus is played by Lance Reddick. I know he's been a lot of stuff, but I know him from the John Wick films. He's
Unfortunately, he
inside.
passed away, so they're gonna
Yeah,
have to recast.
that did happen, but oh man, he was so great, and
And he was
just
a
a
really
little
good
bit he
Zeus
was in.
too.
Yeah, well, that's what. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a great Zeus, and the small scene he was in, and it is a shame.
I love the way that they represented the gods in a way that their magic sort of works, their powers,
Yeah.
so to speak, work. So like lightning, thunder, storms, like that is there's nothing calm about that. It's
Right.
destruction.
Yeah,
It's anger. It's this is happening now. I'm getting my way. It's commanding.
Yeah.
That's what we got from Zeus's character. Like we said about Poseidon's earlier. Like he's fierce, but he's calm.
yeah.
Ares, god of war, like literal hell on earth.
I mean, he literally started a Twitter war just for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
He's sitting there at the restaurant in the show starting a Twitter war for fun. Like
And just
incredible.
laughing. He's just like, ha 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 ha. I'm like,
But just seeing Poseidon and Zeus like interacting together, just
Oh my gosh. And
I'm still gonna
Poseidon,
say-
like Poseidon surrendered. He literally saw
Yeah.
that Zeus was upset with his son, and he said, I surrender. This battle is yours, brother.
yeah.
yeah, and just the intense. I mean, I'm still going to say it's still technically a kid show. It's a young adult show, a YA novel, but
Yeah.
man, the intensity of just the two of them kind of squaring off for the little bit before Poseidon, like,
Gave in, yeah.
yeah, surrendering, and man, such a great scene. So cool. And then obviously seeing the interaction with Percy and Poseidon again,
Mhm.
you know, father and son, a loving father and son, you know, so well,
Being
so
able
well
to
done.
see Percy finally meet Poseidon for the first time and see like my dad, like, so he's started to unfurl this story of him and his dad throughout this season and see
Yeah.
like I do have a loving father. He just can't love me the way that a human father would. And
Right.
to come to that understanding and to finally be able to see them together. And then, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It broke my heart when Poseidon was just like, it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
Because he had to go back to camp.
He's like, you have to go back to camp. And so we see that scene. The gods are going to talk about Kronos.
But even before the camp, I just want to, I mean, in 8 episodes, you can genuinely see the growth of Percy from episode to
Oh, yeah.
episode, experience and experience, and man, just
And you can see the kid grow from a whiny little kid to, oh, he means business and he's got to
a
get ready for this
freaking
war.
hero. He is a
Yeah.
hero. He has a hero's heart.
Yeah, he does.
There is not much you can take in battle from someone that has a hero's heart.
Yeah,
Because
Exactly.
they are going to leave their all, their everything, every battle that they have. And we saw that. They threw everything that they possibly could have in the books at him.
yeah.
He literally saw like the mistress of monsters, like the chimera,
Medusa.
Medusa.
Well,
I loved
Ares.
Them. I loved Medusa. Ares, like
Yeah.
literally all the the Lotus Casino, like
yeah. Everything he had to go through just made him stronger, and it shows.
he
But-
had a battle with the god of war.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and won.
and won. He has
Fair
a
and
hero's
square.
heart. He has a hero's heart, and that's a testament to how battles are won. Because force, yes, is important. Strength is important, but if you are doing it for the right reasons, you're always going to have an advantage that other people don't.
Yeah, and
Percy
even
had that
sacrificed
heart.
himself twice.
Yeah.
Once in St. Louis
For the
and once
mission.
in the
And
amusement
the
park.
Tunnel of Love, yeah.
Yeah, so
And so when he gets back to camp, he's talking to Luke. Because
Well,
he's like,
everybody's hugging him and excited to see him, and they're like, "Did you see her yet?"
yeah.
Because Clarice's still there.
yeah.
And they're like, why is Clarice still here? Why didn't you guys kick her out? She stole the lightning bolt. Yeah, no.
Well, because right now that's in their interest to not do anything with Clarice. And honestly, I understand that to an extent because, well, one, we figure out that Luke is under the control of Kronos. So he's going to keep Clarice there as well because she has Kronos in her head as well. But also,
And the oracle came true that a friend did betray him.
It
as
just
what
wasn't
was
the
told.
friend he was expecting.
Exactly.
Yes. And honestly, I think having Clarice at camp is a safer place to have Clarice because Chiron can then keep an eye on her.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dionysus, bless his soul. Just give the man a glass of wine; it'll be fine.
I know. Just let him drink something. Just let him drink something. It's okay.
I am your father. Go give me some wine, boy.
Oh my gosh, he is wild.
Oh, he's hilarious.
So yeah, that was pretty much what we got. Is hey, there's some more to come because Kronos is now manipulating Luke. We see a scene with Luke and Percy in the woods. He kind of led him away and told him like to where he figured out, oh, you've got him in your head now too.
Yeah. And Luke wanted to basically turn Percy to Kronos' side so that he would still help Kronos basically take over from the rest of the gods.
And we saw Kronos starting to try and plant those seeds, but Percy has that hero's heart, like, and he's not subject to the manipulation of Kronos at this point. After that, we do get to see a happy ending.
Yes.
We get to see that Grover has gotten his searcher's license, so he is going out on his own quest to search for Pan. Mm-hmm. Good on Grover. And we get to see the other heroes, Annabeth and Percy, kind of congratulating him and sending him on his way.
And Annabeth is going to go and see her dad and go to this crazy place called Orlando, where I guess there's theme parks there.
Yeah, which was amazing because literally the day after the finale, the three of them are at Disney World.
I know, right? So, but she does say, like, my dad wants to take me to Orlando to this, like, crazy theme park. I don't even know. She's not excited about it, but he wants to take her.
And girl, you better get excited.
I know, right? It's freaking Disney World.
Percy's like, just be a kid. Have fun.
Just go with it. And then Percy gets to go home. And who's there? Hades kept his word and Mom is back.
You know what I really, really loved about it? So in the book, they made Sally a murderer.
Oh.
They made Sally a murderer in the book. And I like that she's not in this because Sally really just had the best interest for Percy like his entire life. And it was not easy being his mom.
Right.
Yeah.
So
she looked very stressed at times. So.
So that is the season, though.
And Gabe is out of the picture.
Oh yeah, bye, Gabe. We get a little end credit scene where Gabe is like, "My wife is divorcing me, and I gotta pay a lawyer. What is this kind of crap?" Yeah. So Sally is definitely getting rid of.
She's gonna have a glow up.
Yeah. And that's where we end. But we also end with Medusa's head got re-delivered to Gabe's place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And didn't even wait to get in the apartment to open it up. He stoned up right in the hallway.
Yeah, turned to stone. So I don't know if it was already opened or what.
I'm trying to remember what happened in the book. I think in the book that's what made her a murderer, is that she used it on Gabe. I will have to look. I will have to look.
I mean, I read I was watching a breakdown of it, and they did say that she sells it off, like the statue off as like art, but they didn't say how he turned into it or what happened there. So, and they just said that like in the second book, she sells the statue of Gabe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that in the book it was that she used Medusa's head to get rid of him, and the police could never convict her because there was no murder weapon.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're going to do it, that's a smart way to do it.
Yeah,
Use
absolutely.
Medusa's head. Mhm.
So that is season 1.
What was our
I
rating for this
loved it.
one?
I'm going to go 8.5
I'm agreeing with you, Joey. 8.5.
because it
I
left
agree.
me wanting more.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we found out on the investor day that we are getting more. We'll get more on that in a little bit, but I just want to know what you both thought of the season in a whole. I'm going to go quick. I loved it. You guys all know that one thing that brings me in and out of a show is child actors. All the kids in the show were top notch, some of the best I've seen, and I loved it way more than the movie. I only seen the first movie and I liked it, but the show was so much better. Did it live up to both your guys' height and anticipation? I'll start with our guest Sam. What do
Yeah,
you think
go
of
Sam.
this?
Yes, absolutely. It definitely did a much better job of portraying the books and the imagination that I had created, and the scenes that I had created when I first heard the stories. And they were so much better. These episodes were so much better than the movies because of the character development. So yes, it gave me everything that I wanted. It left me wanting more. I'm glad that we're going to talk about what's to come because there's still so much to come. So much to come.
Yeah.
And honestly, like they went pretty directly from the books. They
That's
did
awesome.
not stray far at all.
I mean, they totally like just took chapters of this books that like, and I just got an article directly from D23 sent to me. So I'll bring that up afterwards because it's about season 2. But like they took certain chapters out of this book and found a way to make a cohesive storyline out of it.
This season is just the first book.
Yeah.
There are 3.
Yeah.
I thought are there 3 or are there 5?
3.
Just because the breakdown that I like the channel
because
that
there
I
are like extra.
Yeah,
there are extra pieces, but I think it's a trilogy.
Oh, okay.
So what do you think, Courtney, like overall?
Oh, I love this. I mean, I have not read the books. Oh, there's 6 now. Okay. So I haven't read the books, but like this TV series has definitely made me want to like pick up the book and like read it and going more into detail about what actually is happening. I did see the movie and the original movie, but I did not see the second movie. They're both on Disney Plus now, but definitely this series has definitely whet my appetite, definitely reignited my love for Greek mythology. Because not that it ever waned, but like, you know, I go through spurts where I get like really obsessed with stuff. And so I could see myself getting obsessed with Greek mythology again after this, which is great.
There are 6 books. I only have 4 of these, actually.
Oh, well, then you need to get 5 and 6.
I do. I don't even know if I have them all in order, but so there's The Lightning Thief, then there's Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I know I have that one. Percy Jackson and the Last Olympian, which I have that one. Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, I have that one. I do not have Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth, and I do not have Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods.
Oh,
those are all great titles.
The Chalice of the Gods. Like even look, the cover art is fantastic. Like I don't even think I've ever seen the Chalice of the Gods.
Yeah, I am not a big reader. I've tried even stuff I really into, but I have gotten into audiobooks, so I will at least get into that. One thing I want to say too is I love the shows, and we've talked about shows on Disney Plus, and I would say for me, this is a top 3 show.
Absolutely.
On Disney Plus. And in no specific order, but my favorite shows have been The Mandalorian, WandaVision, and now Percy Jackson. Those are my
Well, I would separate it from Star Wars and Marvel because those are 2 separate beasts. But like out of all of the Disney Channel original content, I would say, or the Disney Plus original content, I would say the Santa Clauses is up there for me, at least the first season. And Percy Jackson and what other series did I really like that I was bummed that they didn't bring back?
I mean,
There was another one.
But the only reason
I'm
why
right up there. I'm right up there with you, Joey. Like I will include the Marvel and Star Wars, and I'll go with those same three as you.
is like
But
one
I
thing
would
we love.
switch up WandaVision with Mandalorian.
Well, that's fair. No, and because one thing that we want to do here on Elements of Fun is talk about the other Disney Plus content that's not getting as exposed as Percy Jackson, the Santa Clauses, National Treasure. Of course, we're big Star Wars and Marvel
basically,
fans.
you're doing what Disney marketing is not doing a good job of.
Exactly. And that is why all the Disney Channel, why do I keep calling it Disney Channel? Disney Plus original
You're a
series.
DCOM girl at heart.
I know I'm a DCOM girl. All the Disney Plus original content, that's why they took it all off. Nobody watched it. And it's because they didn't market it.
Exactly. But the reason why I am throwing Mandalorian in, because it was season 1 of The Mandalorian was completely original. It was Star Wars without being Star Wars. Season 2 and 3 became more Star Wars, which I love, but
same thing
season 1 was awesome. WandaVision completely original. So that's why I'm throwing those in there. For me, that's why I
get it, but I'm just saying there is no reason, absolutely no reason that High School Musical, the series, is the only one that gets 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Out of all of their original content.
That's awful.
It is awful.
But
there's absolutely
not
no
have been one season.
Yeah.
They had the movies. We could have left it there.
Exactly.
Before we kind of end this and talk about what's coming up for season 2, one thing that I do want to bring up that I absolutely love, you guys know I'm a behind the scenes hound, but the behind the scenes, A Hero's Journey, I believe it's called, is a must watch. They did such a great job. I love seeing the top 3 actors. I clicked off their names right now, but Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. I love seeing the process of making the show and how Rick thought that they were exactly perfectly cast, even better than he imagined when he wrote them. I love seeing their parents on the behind the scenes and in tears that their kids are doing so good. Seeing Percy, Walker, seeing like how they're doing their schooling, but he was so into the production is that they made him a cameraman and used it as a TV production as a class, like a credit.
That's
and
cool.
Seeing that stuff.
That's
awesome. So if you haven't seen the behind the scenes, it is amazing. And they're geeking out over Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh, they were like us, like geeking out, like seriously.
Yeah. And
when he walked into the room.
I think I told you, and I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about the first 4, but I was like, you know what? The music I really dig. Found out that it was the theme and everything was composed by Bear McCreary, which has done like Walking Dead. He's done Black Sails, and hopefully, if the rumor's true, he's also attached to something that's could be very near and dear to mine and Sam's heart. The more than rumored, happening SEA show, and he's already attached as a composer. So,
awesome.
And I love the themes that he's done. So I'm a big fan of his, but the behind the scenes was one of the best Disney Plus.
Yeah, and they go into detail about the kids doing their own stunts, or some of the own stunts, not the real dangerous ones, but some of the own stunts, and also the underwater scenes.
Yeah,
how they filmed that one. So it's very, very cool.
Very informative.
But like I said, on February 7th at the Disney Investor Call, that's when they actually announced that we are getting season 2 is a green light. And then, Courtney, you mentioned you also got an email.
I did. I just, right before I logged on, I saw that D23 sent us email.
Season 2 will probably end up being the Sea of Monsters story then.
They already said it was going to be Sea of Monsters because Rick Riordan already went on social media and said, we're headed to the Sea of Monsters. So it is definitely going to be Sea of Monsters. And D23 interviewed Jonathan E. Steinberg, the series co-creator and executive producer, and said they will follow a similar formula in adapting Riordan's source material. He says, I think the goal is to take the book and find its soul and the things that make the experience what it is for a reader, and then try to plant that in the ground a little bit and let it grow into something else. And that was and then he says he thinks they were successful in engineering that in season 1.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
But like we said, if you're listening to this right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, go consume the media, because if we're not consuming the media, they're going to stop creating it.
Exactly.
And these things are sincerely worth a watch. Like, we wouldn't have sat here and talked for an hour and a half gushing about it, giving it 8-star ratings, if it wasn't worth giving it a watch. So go give it a watch. You'll find yourself invested in it. And then when we invest ourselves into it, they are going to continue to invest in us as the viewer and keep giving us content. So they have 6 books. That's 6 seasons.
Yeah.
That they could give us of this show.
Steinberg.
I want it. I want it.
I know. I want it too. Steinberg already confirmed that a couple of the scripts have already been written for season 2, adding that they're in really good shape. And he noted to boot up this machine again is an undertaking. There are a lot of trains leaving the station all at the same time. They do want to capitalize on the franchise's momentum. The cast and crew hope to begin production on season 2 as soon as possible. And he thinks that they all feel the demand is a response for people wanting to see more of this. But we want to do it right and make sure that the second season of the show lives up to or surpasses the first. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then it just goes into a little bit of like who they want to play, like who the creators want to play people. They want Christopher Judge to play Atlas, which is the god that holds up the world, the Titan that holds up the world. And he's the guy who plays Kratos in God of War.
Okay.
And he said that he has that Titan energy.
Absolutely.
And then they also want Zendaya to play Athena. So I don't know if they'll get Zendaya back because of Disney, but yeah.
But that would be like, oh, can you see Zendaya as Annabeth's mom?
Yeah, I know. That would be awesome.
Legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah. And then they also, he was watching the Hunger Games recently and thought Sam Claflin would be a cool Apollo.
And he was Snow?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Watch it. So I don't know that name, but
okay.
But yeah, Zendaya would be awesome, but Zendaya had a lot of not issues with Disney because obviously she did 2 shows with Disney when she was littler, but like the way that she's blown up like recently, I don't know if she would go back to a Disney Plus show. But you know, people in the Marvel universe have been doing it, so I don't know. Just depends on if it works with her schedule, I guess.
I would say after who they cast for season 1, I'm on board of whoever they cast for season 2.
Yeah.
So far,
they are paying attention to energy. Energy matters in casting. Like you are literally casting Greek gods and goddesses. Yeah. It matters. If they cannot carry the energy of that character and the energy of the powers that that character wields, like it's not going to work. That's something that they did so beautifully in season 1. So they need to keep that consistent.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, going back to the behind the scenes, is so many of the kids that were in the camp were actual fans of the books.
Yeah.
That they cast as the camp kids. So, I mean, you see a few of them interviewed in school. But Sam mentioned about watching the media and stuff. If you're watching this show, we appreciate it. Mm-hmm. But why are you watching a spoiler episode of an awesome TV show? Get out there, watch the season. Enjoy the hell out of it. Then come back and see.
Watch us after you've watched it.
Well, we appreciate you.
For sure.
But oh man, no, this was great. Like I said, I knew like this was one of the first things that me and Courtney wanted to talk about when we started this channel. So it's kind of sad that we're done with it now until season 2 at least. But Sam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming on.
You know, we're so happy.
Thank you guys so much. Like I love like obviously this is me being in my element and just having people who have the same joy in consuming the same things. You guys know this is how I get on the tribe, and this is how I get when we're talking about things on Wealth Apartment. And I just appreciate you guys. Thank you for letting me come on.
Oh yeah, I know we had a little scheduling issues, but we were not going to do this without you because we wanted your expertise and just passion. So
I'm so happy to be here. So thank you guys.
Awesome. And you always got an open door anytime we
Absolutely
do something here. So we're all family. But I want to thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments what you thought of the episode. Not the episode, but the show and the episode if you like our takes or whatever. And maybe what's the next review you'd like us to do. Be sure to, once again, to subscribe and hit that bell. Smash that bell. Smash that like button. All that YouTube
we both have Disney Plus, so everything is open, and even other things too. So.
Yeah, and so we will be back soon. We've got some more videos coming up, and we don't have a proper way to end the show other than thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. And watch us all on Walt's Apartment live on Wednesday nights. So, thank you guys for watching. Good night.